welcome again to another video of Pag-aaral, and in today's lesson we're going to discuss your plant tissue or plant cell types. Okay, so let's start with this with this meme. So plants outside, concrete, cozy, and then plants at home. Is this tap water? I'm allergic. Well, actually, hindi naman ganito. Hindi naman siya ganito talaga. It's a meme, right? Pero what's funny is hindi sa like they are allergic, pero they can't really the plants. For example, they normally thrive outside of the house. Like for example, dun nga sila sa garden, tapos pinasok mo siya bigla sa loob, so it would really be a problem kasi kailangan niya muna mag-adapt, and at the same time it needs sunlight. So I would really recommend, guys, if you really want plants at home, please alamin nyo muna if it's parang suited being a houseplant. Okay, so I have snake plant there. I don't know if you can see that. So I have my snake plant and my cactus to accompany me here in my room. Okay, so they are low maintenance, so that works best for me. Anyway, the agenda for today is the plant anatomy. We're going to discuss the plant anatomy. Just a review. Plant tissue types. We have your dermal, ground, vascular, plant root, primary, secondary, and meristem. So the plant anatomy or phytotomy, it's actually divided into two. We have your shoot system and your root system. So before we start or enumerate the structures, no, parang it's really amazing how the plants, they seem to be different from one another, different forms, but internally they are just the same. They are comprised with the same kind of cell, and they have this two divisions nga of system. So first, we're going to enumerate the structure for your shoot system. We have your reproductive shoot, which is the flower. Reproductive shoot, of course, since may reproductive dyan, ibig sabihin your flower contains the reproductive organ. So this contains, for example, if this contains your ovary, it will give rise to the fruit and to the seed. Okay, so next is we have your axillary bud. Your terminal bud. So your terminal bud is located at the tip, at the apex of your stem. So here siya. So we have the nodes then. So that is the attachment of the leaf of the petiole to the stem. So that is your node, and the space between them, we call them your internode. And the axillary bud naman. So axillary bud, they are just a type of bud, pero the difference is that dito sa terminal bud, its location is in the apex, pero yung axillary bud is in the axillary, or parang in between your petiole and the stem. Also have your leaf. So leaf is comprised of your blade and your petiole. So your blade is the leafy part, so it is where metabolism, it is where your photosynthesis happens, and it is attached to the stem by the petiole. So here's your petiole. The stem conducts water, minerals, and food to other parts of the body. So for the root system naman, we have your top root, which is the main root, and the lateral roots, which are the extension of your tap root. So basically, the function of your root is, of course, to absorb water from the soil as well as minerals present in the soil. Pero the common misconception here is that we often tend to describe your root as something, or as a structure that is found under the ground or below the ground. So the problem with that is we also have roots that can be found above the ground. So we call that your aerial roots. So the perfect way of describing your root is they are the non-leafy and non-node bearing parts of the plant that, of course, absorbs water. Okay, so tissues. Now let's go with the tissues. So just like the tissues present in your animal body, diba, we have four: your epithelial, muscular, connective, and your nervous tissue. And I know you've mastered that already. We're done with that. So dito naman tayo sa plant tissues. So dito naman we have three. So first is we have your epidermis, which is a part of your dermal tissue. Next is the xylem and phloem, which is the part of your vascular. and parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma part of your ground tissue. Hey, yes. So for the dermal, it has this epidermis and periderm. So epidermis is the it includes ground cells, guard cells, cells forming trichomes, and sclerenchyma. So they can be found in the outer layer of the plant body. So they surround the plant body, just like the function of the epithelium in the animal tissue. So this periderm naman, we could just observe this one when when a plant body has a secondary growth. So it includes your cork cells, cork cambium cells, parenchyma, phylloderm, and sclerenchyma. So this phylloderm is not really present in all types of plant. So for the secondary, for the woody plants lang din yung phylloderm, and yeah, found in the outer layer but mainly in your stems. Next we have your xylem. So your xylem, which conducts your water. So it includes the tracheids, vessel members, sclerenchyma cells, and parenchyma cells can be found in all organs. Your phloem naman, it conducts your sugar. So it includes your sieve cells or sieve tube members, albuminous cells, companion cells, and other parenchyma cells. And sclerenchyma cells can be found in all organs then. So for the ground tissue, we just have three, your parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. They're really fun to pronounce. Okay, so your parenchyma, it includes your parenchyma cells, collenchyma cells, and sclerenchyma cells. Your parenchyma cells can be found in your cortex or pith, collenchyma cells mainly on stems, and sclerenchyma can be found in all organs. So let's discuss them individually. We have your dermal tissue. So the dermal tissue includes, sabi ko kanina, is your epidermis, which is the outer covering of the plant. It is a complex tissue composed of your epidermal cells, guard cells, and trichomes or hairs of various type. So for the trichomes, these are the hair protrusions na parang nararamdaman nyo whenever you touch the leaf na parang hairy. For example is the oregano. So that's the type of trichome. Also yung sa okra, diba? Parang medyo hairy siya. So that's trichomes. So here, I have a cross-section of your epidermis, of your leaf. So this part is the epidermis, and then this part is the epidermis as well. So as we can see, meron tayo ditong guard cells. And then, anong function ng guard cells nyo? So, your guard cells are actually the ones that controls the opening and the closing of the stomata. Dito lumalabas yung water nyo to be evaporated, and then dito rin pumapasok yung CO2 which your plant needs, especially for the production of food. Okay? So, it's really good yung guard cells nyo, especially when the environment is moist and then there's a lot of moist and it's sunny. Ang ginagawa ng guard cells nyo is it opens your stomata. It opens your stomata para it can release yung H2O kasi nga moist naman. So, marami naman siyang H2O. So, it can release H2O. At the same time, it can absorb a lot of CO2 since it's sunny. So, for example naman, if the environment where the plant is located is medyo dry, so, mangyayari is it will close the stomata. So, your guard cells, i-close yung stomata para hindi mag-escape yung water nyo. Okay? And yeah, from infection by some pathogens then. Next, we have your ground tissue. So we can break it down to your parenchyma cells, collenchyma cells, and sclerenchyma cells. So parenchyma cells, it is for general metabolism. So what do we mean by general metabolism? Well, the things that your plants do. For example, they're going to be the site of photosynthesis. So they are described to be spherical or elongated, but they may have diverse shapes. So they don't actually like a one shape lang. So meron silang diverse shape, and it has a thin primary cell wall. It also has a lignin, that is a polymer responsible for this one, so that the wall is impermeable to water. Para yung water, it can just parang move inside the cell by the pits lang. Okay, so your parenchyma cells are considered to be living cells. So why are they living cells? Kasi they are for metabolism. Next is we have your collenchyma cells. So these collenchyma cells are present especially to those young plants. So it supports young stems and young leaf. So cells are often the outermost cells of the cortex, being just inside the epidermis in young stems and the petioles of leaves. So, collenchyma cells, actually, na-observe talaga natin siya. Hindi mo lang, makikita mo siya even though you don't really observe it under the microscope. Makikita mo siya sa celery. Hindi ako nakapaglagay, pero, for example, that's your, oh my gosh, no. This is your celery, tapos dito, that's your collenchyma cells, and this part that is comprised of your parenchyma cells. So, collenchyma, celery, C and L. So you could think of that as an example. So they are elongated, often contain chloroplasts, and are living at maturity. So the walls of collenchyma cells are composed of alternating layers of pectin naman. Kung kanina, lignin, ngayon naman, pectin. Okay? Next is sclerenchyma cells. So they are rigid and function to support the weight of the plant organ. So if we're going to rate it, your parenchyma cells, they are for metabolism lang talaga. So their walls are not really that, they have thin walls ka. So parang hindi naman sila ganun ka-strong kasi their purpose is for the metabolism and photosynthesis. So your collenchyma naman, they are a bit strong but not stronger compared, it will never be stronger compared to your sclerenchyma cells kasi they are stone-like, yung sclerenchyma cells nyo. Okay, so we have two types of sclerenchyma cells. We have the fibers and the sclerids. So the fibers are long, narrow cells with thick pitted walls and tapered ends. So fibers also, an example of this is the lupid or the rope. So that is made up of fibers from your sclerenchyma cells. And sclerids naman, we can observe it when we eat your pear. Diba yung pear, meron siyang parang grainy texture. So that's your stone cells. So that's your sclerid. Wait, I forgot. So your sclerenchyma also have a thick lignified secondary cell wall. So they are dead at maturity. So they are dead compared to those two. Yung those two kasi, they are still living. Pero kasi ito, dead na siya. Okay, so now let's go to your vascular tissues composed primarily of your phloem and your xylem. Let's start with your xylem. So it transports water and dissolves minerals upward. So always upward. So remember that your water, it is absorbed by your root. And then since it is from your root, the transport of that is always upward from root to shoot. Okay, so these are the cell types found in xylem. We have the water conducting cells, which are your tracheids and vessel members, fibers, and parenchyma cells. In phloem naman, it transports sugar through the plant. Okay, so the phloem, the movement naman or the transport of sugar all throughout the plant is up and down. So wala naman talaga siyang particular direction. So it's up and down, whichever is parang most possible, okay lang yon. So in flowering plants, the phloem is made up of your sieve tube members and these cells. And sieve tubes pa rin yung nag-transport na sugar produced by photosynthesis. Okay? Now we're done with your tissues. Now let's go with the growth naman. So when we say growth, ibig sabihin yun yung paglaki. So later, malalaman natin ano yung types ng growth. Although sinabi ko siya kanina. Okay? Wait lang. For example, meron kaming puno sa probinsya. And then, ang ginawa ko is, kumuha ako ng axe, tapos nag-mark ako doon sa puno, and that is approximately 5 feet from the ground if you measure it. So that's 5 feet. Okay? So after 20 years, bumalik ako sa probinsya, and then, what do you think happened dun sa mark na ginawa ko? Sana siya, nandito ba siya sa may taas na part? Nandito ba siya sa may ilalim na part? Kasi it's been 20 years. As you can see, tumangkad siya. So, nasa na kaya yung mark? So, the answer is, nandun pa rin siya. 5 feet exactly. Estimated still 5 feet. So, hindi siya napunta dito, hindi rin siya napunta dito. So, you would ask me, ma'am, bakit? Bakit hindi naman siya parang nabago, nandun pa rin siya? It is because, of the stem and the ram. So your stem is the shoot apical meristem and your ram is the root apical meristem. So you need to understand kasi your plant, they tend to grow longitudinally muna. So pataas. So pataas, isa-isa pababa. In the middle part, they will stay like that lang. That's why yung 5 feet na minark ko dito, still 5 feet. But the difference lang is, unlike nung before 20 years, yung ginawa ko yung mark, yung mark is parang deep. But after 20 years, syempre, hindi na siya ganun ka-deep kasi somehow your plant or your tree or my tree, it widens. Parang, nag-grow siya pag ganito and then nag-grow din siya pag laterally. So, i-discuss natin yan. So, the first growth or the growth that happens dun sa plant, yung longitudinally, we call that your primary growth. So it is where your stem and ram elongates or produces a lot of cells para siya lumaki. So for example, here your ram, your root apical meristem. So in this region or in this part, there are actively dividing cells here and they are undifferentiated. Ibig sabihin, wala pa talaga siyang parang specific type of cell na magiging. So, para silang stem cell. So, these undifferentiated cells here will move towards parang upwards and then meron din ditong matitira or ditong mapupuntang root cells or parang yung mga bagong cells. So, what will happen to those undifferentiated cells na pababa ang movement is it will form your root cap. So, hindi lang siya masyadong obvious here, but that is the root cap. So, the root cap, the function of that is to protect the root kasi it pushes downwards, diba? Kasi nga yung growth niya is pababa and then we have here pataas din. So, since it pushes downwards, kailangan niyang i-protect yung root. That's why we have your root cap. So, also, paano siya magpupush pababa? Bakit hindi pataas na lang din? So, that is because yung actively dividing cells mo nga here will move dito sa portion na to and when they enlarge or pag lumaki sila, it will push down your roots. Yeah. Deeper sa soil or sa ground. So, another type naman which is responsible for the growth na upper growth, we have your shoot apical meristems or shoot apical meristem. Wala silang root cap, wala silang shoot cap kasi it pushes through the air. So wala naman siyang soil above the ground. So it's okay even though if it doesn't have your root cap or your shoot cap. Okay, so but still it has this part, the meristematic part of your of this tissue to produce undifferentiated cells then, okay, that will later on become part of your plant. Okay, next is the secondary growth. So this is naman happens because of your lateral meristem. So that is for secondary growth present in woody plants. So let's say for example, I have here the transverse section of a 3-year-old tilia stem. So transverse section is just the parang cross section. So if we zoom it in, we'll have it will look like this. So let's say for example, this part is your xylem and then this part is your phloem. Okay, so your xylem is water conducting and your phloem is for sugar. So here, as you can see, itong part na to, that is your vascular cambium. So your vascular cambium is this type of a lateral meristem. So what it does is it produces your xylem and your phloem. Okay, so it produces your xylem towards this and then phloem naman towards that direction. Okay, so if we move a little bit, we'll have your cork cambium. So cork cambium is another type of your lateral meristem which is responsible for the production of your cork, which is the outer layer of the bark that makes the bark waterproof. Okay, and together, your cork cambium and cork, it forms your periderm. Okay, so this part, ganito po kakapal yung bark niya. Okay, so now, let's say for example, here, ang ginagawa ng tao na to, whoever he is, so binabalatan niya yung stem ng plant. So, ano mangyayari if if ganyan, binabalatan niya, so it will actually kill the tree. Bakit? Kasi tinatanggal niya yung bark, and yung bark kasama doon yung phloem nyo. So, since kasama doon yung phloem nyo, ano nang mag-transport ng sugar all throughout the body of the tree or the plant. So, wala na. Even though you still have your water, but without the sugar, the plant will not survive. So, you're actually, if you do this sa plant or sa tree, you are parang killing the tree. So, don't do this, ha? Okay. Okay, so guys, that's actually the end of our presentation for today. And if you have any questions, just send me a message. And guys, see you on our next video. Bye!